Well, hello there, and welcome to another edition of Warbird Wednesday. My name is Fred Bell. I'm the Vice Chairman of the Palm Springs Air Museum, and we are going back to the beginning. We are going back to the beginning where it all started with the Wright Flyer. At Kill Devil Hills in North Carolina, we had the first heavier-than-air powered flight with the Wright brothers with this 1903 Flyer. Now today we have my mellifluous assistant, I think I got that, mellifluous assistant, and Greg has again outfitted me, and you know, I know what this is, Greg. Dumbo, Greg, really? Okay, I guess maybe that could have been the first heavier-than-air elephant that flew, but... So I'm going to take this off. I'm going to try to get it off camera here. There we go. Oh, a nice toss there and the catch by the Kenny. So the Wright Flyer. Now, this is where it all started. Of course, you can tell that this thing was just a little bit put together. Of course, the Wrights worked on gliders originally, so they were doing a lot of glider work, and then they actually... what's interesting about this is there had been some wind tunnel testing on propellers. Did you know that, Greg? And they're actually using an aerodynamic shape for a propeller. I think it was shape number 9. You have to go, you historians and fact checkers out there will have to check that. But the propellers actually were formed to an aerodynamic shape. The aircraft itself obviously was made out of the lightest materials possible, wood, fabric. One interesting thing about this is that the engine, Greg, the 12 horsepower engine, the engine block was made out of aluminum and the pistons were made out of iron, which is interesting, which, you know, anybody who had a, like a 1970s Vega knew that an aluminum block engine was not something you wanted because it would warp. So you Vega owners out there, I'm sure, have horror stories. But it worked in this case. There was a chain drive, a bicycle drive that drove the propellers. Of course, the Wright Flyer carried 2 Hellfire missiles, which it used. No, I'm just kidding, Greg. We've been doing this too long. I'm putting armament on the airplane. But it really marked, the start of all of this stuff. And when you think about from 1903 to the late 1960s and Apollo and how far we went from just getting a man with a 12 horsepower engine with an aluminum block off the ground for a very short distance. Think about that to where we're launching a Saturn V rocket off the planet weighing hundreds of thousands of pounds at speeds that are unimaginable, and supersonic aircraft and all the things that went into it. And it all started with this little gem right here. The interesting thing about it was it is not like a normal aircraft, and I'll throw up a plan view. Greg can throw up a plan view. In that, what does this not have, Greg? It has no ailerons. There are no ailerons, no flaps on the wings. It has this canard out front for a little bit of control, but what the pilot would do with this is he would warp the wings. I hope Greg in post can find some wing warping graphics so that he can show this, but this was a way to steer it. Now, Curtis and some of the other guys that came later were playing around with ailerons and things like that, and the French were working on wings that had a more directional, but the Wright brothers initially warped the wing to give themselves an additional control. Now, if Greg wants to pan up, you can actually get the image of our 1903 Flyer there, and Greg can pan up and get that. You walk in under it. This is a signification for us of where it all started. Right when you come into the entry of the museum, this replica was built in conjunction with our docents and the Civil Air Patrol Squadron 11. We want to thank them for that so much. Now, the original version of the aircraft went on display in 1948. One of there's a whole history about how there was a flood and part of the airplane was covered in mud and a whole bunch of other stuff, which I'm not going to go into. But a cleaned up version of the airplane finally went on display at the Smithsonian in 1948, 45 years to the day of its first flight. So the first flight in December of 1903, you can actually see these are, and we have these at the museum. There's exhibits here. This is a restored tintype picture of the actual flight. And one of the things that's neat is a few years ago, artists come in and they were able to restore all these. We have an entire display, which Greg can throw in, and you can see this is really neat stuff. But what's amazing, Greg, is just look at the height there. That was what they were shooting for there. Not much height at all. And just amazing, amazing stuff. So I'm going to put my model down today, and I'm going to go to my salute. Now today, for my stage 2, Greg has selected a really interesting soda. The bottle is interesting as well. It's Bowls, B-A-W-L-S, Guarana soda, Guarana soda. I'm going to try that. There is no sell-by date. This is interesting, Greg. This could be I don't know what this is. The name of the soda is kind of interesting, Greg, and we're just going to leave it at that. Okay, so I'm going to give it a shot here. But what I want to do is talk about inventors and perseverance. We talked about Skyfox and having a vision and getting an airplane going, but that was built on existing technology. A lot of the lift, the thrust, the things about how the airplane was going to perform, they were worked out, and they were building on, a lot of times we say we stand on the shoulders of giants. Well, when we talk about this and we talk about aircraft, there is never a time when I don't think about that we're standing on these guys' shoulders. This is where it all came from. There was some stuff done in Europe, but in the United States, the Wright brothers are it, and everything comes out of that. And that, it is very rare to see that type of technology tree. So to the Wright brothers, and to really dream a big dream. Remember, at this time, they had worked with gliders, and there were, lighter than aircraft and balloons and dirigibles, which we're going to talk about a little bit here in one of our future episodes. But this was the very beginning of powered flight. Nobody knew how to make it work. They had to invent everything. And so to the Wright brothers, with Bowls soda, I salute you. It's not bad. It's actually pretty good, Greg. This is like 2 weeks in a row that you haven't nearly poisoned me. So the Wright brothers went ahead and started the initial technology. Then they took it a step further in 1909. So think about this. In December of 1903, they were flying, basically was a prototype airplane. By 1909, they made the Wright military flyer. You can think about that. Now, the Wright military flyer was demonstrated at Fort Myer in June of 1909. The Wright brothers were responding to an Army, now get this, Signal Corps request. Remember, there's no Air Force. We've been using balloons and dirigibles and stuff like that to spot for artillery for the forces, but there is no offensive capability in aircraft. The Wright brothers at Fort Myer demonstrated the Wright military flyer. That aircraft had a requirement to fly 2 people. Now again, remember, we're talking about, look at that distance. Just 6 years later, they responded to a requirement to fly 2 people for 125 miles. After rigorous testing, the Army accepted it, and they paid the Wright brothers. Now think about what a Joint Strike Fighter costs. They paid the Wright brothers for the military flyer $30,000. They won the competition for $30,000. There were about 60 variants of that airplane made, give or take, and as we know with history, everything else is built on that. So
now we have a wonderful motion picture here, the first ever made of an airplane in flight. And I'm so pleased that through the help of National Archives and this wonderful crew here in the Navy, the two Jims, that we can show it to you. There's Wilbur putting a wheel under that wing, a wheel under the other wing, and thus it is just rolled over the ground. Those wheels were just for temporary use. Now here's a working party. In fact, persons later considered it a great honor to help pull that weight up. There's a passenger seated, because you see Wilbur was going to take passengers over there also and teach persons to fly, starting the engine by getting those propellers on compression, and then down she goes, and there goes the weight, and there goes the aircraft, and into the air. There were hundreds, thousands of persons came to see these flights. These were astounding. They were the greatest news of the day, just as later on we had the news of the trip up there to the moon. And these flights, about 35 miles an hour.
On that. So there are just more and more improvements, and we've covered all the various things in our collection. Now, if you want to, and Greg does this, he flies us around the office, have your very own Wright Flyer. What I really like, Greg, is it's got the toy, and then the Wright brothers were flying off a tarmac. That's the kind of interesting thing. But it does have a little runway there that you can take off your Wright Flyer from there. But this, oh, by the way, this is the biplane series. So that's pretty much fun. But you can go out, order this on our website, give it to your favorite person. I don't want to say your favorite kid because, you know, some people, I collect those things. You know, you collect little models and stuff like that. But go out to the website and order that, get that. We cannot, I mean, we built this, we reproduce this. This comes off your donations. I talk all about the time about we need donations, and we need that to continue our work. So if you can, hit that make us a donation in the link button. Remember, when you're at the museum, this is something that you do want to take in. And Greg can get shots of all this, the exhibit, and he'll get some better shots of our reproduction of the Wright Flyer there. But this is something you want to take in because it gives you tremendous context of, let's say, the F-117 as an example, and just in 100 years, how far we have come in aviation. So we want you to do that. Now, if you're watching this on our YouTube channel, I hope we've earned your subscription today. We certainly want to earn your subscription. Please subscribe to the channel. Like us on YouTube. Like us on Facebook. And we're going to see you again for another edition of Warbird Wednesday. Thank you very much. Have a great day.